If your email list is not growing, then chances are it's not a copywriting issue. It might not even be a design or a strategy-based issue. 9 times out of 10, when it comes to email lists that are stagnant, it's actually an acquisition issue that's dressed up as a retention problem. If you don't know me already, my name's Jack Short. I found Surefire Media, which is a D2C e-commerce retention marketing agency, and I've worked with brands over 75 in my time. Some that have had no subscribers, others that have had millions of subscribers, and then everything in between. So I've built these lists from scratch more times than I can count. This video is for anyone who has already got product market fit. So you know that people want what it is that you're selling, but the question is, how do you turn website traffic into an asset that you actually own instead of one that you're renting constantly from Meta and Google? Because ultimately that's what an email list is. It's a channel that you own forever. It's great. So let's get into it. Let's start with the boring stuff because it matters more than people actually want it to. So if your site is slow or if the UX is a little bit clunky, it's not very nice for people to get around onto your website, then you're leaking traffic because people are coming to your site and the user experience is not very nice. People don't really want to even see your sign up form because it takes forever to load your website or it takes forever to kind of navigate it. So it doesn't matter how good your offer is or how clever the copy is, how lovely the design is, if your site is slow and it's a nightmare to use. So this is fundamental. Make sure you get this sorted before you do anything else. The second thing is your messaging. So you want to make sure similarly from your website that whatever you've got on your site, it's congruent from wherever people have come from. So if they're seeing your ads on Meta, if they're seeing it on Google, make sure that wherever these people are landing, the messaging is dialed in compared to what ad they came from. So let's say that you're selling something on Google, maybe you're selling whiteboards, for example, and you've got a page that's, the best whiteboards for businesses or something like that. But then people click on that and then they go to your homepage instead. That's not what people clicked. That's not what people were looking for. Similarly, on your Meta ads, if people are clicking to go through to a product page or to an advertorial or whatever it may be, you have to make sure that the messaging on that page matches what people are expecting on the ad. Otherwise, people are going to leave your site. So again, this is more of an acquisition issue. But once you've got your website, your UX working well, and then you've got your ads that are targeting finding the right people, you need to make sure the messaging where people are on your site is actually congruent with the reason for why they clicked in the first place. Another part to the messaging is making sure that it's abundantly clear who it is that you are and who it is that you help. So if you go to Surefire Media right now, you'll see that it's very clear who we work with. We work with Shopify brands who are doing 1 mil plus per month. That's a very clear proposition for who it is that we're working with. If people are going to your site and it's not fully clear what it is that you're offering, if your product maybe needs a little bit more explanation or it's too vague or people don't know if it's going to actually solve their problem, then that's going to be another thing that causes people to bounce. So when I say messaging, it's twofold. Make sure that it matches what people are expecting when they click onto your site, and also make sure that it's really clear, abundantly clear, who it is that you are and what it is that you do, what it is that you help people to solve. So the flip side to this is if you're, let's say, a fashion-based company or a brand that is selling something that's highly visual, rather than messaging, it's less about messaging, it's more about the visual element and how your site looks. You want to make sure that the vibe of your site matches what people are expecting. So if you're a women's fashion brand, you're selling summery clothing because it's around summer, make sure that the design is summer focused and that it's not still stuck on your winter collection. Really basic stuff here. But again, the design really matches to make people instantly have that connection so they know within 5 seconds, is this for me or not? And if you can nail that, you're going to keep people on your site long enough to get to the next point, which is the offer. So when people have come to your site, they're interested in your brand, they want to know more about it, or they're interested in buying from you maybe. The third reason, why should they give you their email? And so that's what this is the offer. What is the offer that you're giving to people in order for them to want to exchange over their email address? So this offer matters quite a lot. You can do a freebie, you can do a discount, you can do something that's kind of gated behind a certain AOV, like spend $100 and get 20% off so that you can protect your margins if you need to. But the thing that most brands miss with this, and the most important element, is actually testing it. So there is no one right offer. There are good offers and there are bad ones, but those good offers are not applicable to every single niche as well. So I've worked with over 75 D2C brands and so many different niches amongst them. And one offer that works for one brand doesn't always translate into another niche. So that's the purpose of this. Test the different offers that you've got. This should be its own section really. So I've added it as a fourth one, but actually testing all of these various different things is how you're actually going to know for sure whether or not something is working. So testing the offer, testing the language, testing the various messaging that you've got, testing your ads. Everybody knows to test. What can you actually test when it comes to actually growing your email list? Well, from this point, the thing that you're going to get the quickest feedback on is your sign up form itself. So you can test that sign up form, you can test the creative on it, you can test the timing of when it shows up, you can test the offer, you can test the copy, you can test the images that you show, or the adding in email versus adding in SMS, or adding in both, or adding in a first name versus not having it there, or adding in a birthday. There's so many various different things you can test. That's probably another video for how to like split test your sign up form. But this is the key thing here. You want to make sure that you're testing various different theories, because again, there's no one size fits all for this. It's just about having an efficient system in place so that you can test this and you can get results and compound it and record those results so you know what does and doesn't work for your brand. Now, when you test these sign-up forms in Klaviyo, it will tell you when you've reached statistical significance. But in general, I like to go for 5 to 10K views on a sign-up form before I know definitively that this one is good or this one is not good. So again, Klaviyo will test this and you can pit them against each other to see which one actually works best. But the more data that you get on it, the more statistical relevance that you're actually going to get. And then you'll know for sure, again, does 20% off actually convert better at 5 than 15? What's the difference in that? In us giving away that extra 5% margin? Do we get more people signing up and therefore more orders, or do we get not as many people signing up and we're losing more margin because we're giving away the extra 5%? That's how you determine which is the best for you to say definitively, should it be 15 or should it be 20? Now, you might think that 5 to 10K views on a form is a lot, and it is. There's no other way around it, really. It's expensive to do this kind of thing. Getting that traffic to your site and then it not converting is quite painful, especially when you worked hard to get those ads there, or organic, or whatever it may be. So this is why I always say that it's very important that you're always testing, right in the beginning phase especially. Always be testing, and don't just test and then set it and forget, but actually record the results you get. Figure out which forms work the best, which messaging works the best, which offer works the best, and make a written record of it somewhere. I've got a split testing guide on my YouTube channel. You can check that out, and it will help you to definitively understand which tests are the best, and then also track them so that you don't have to repeat the same tests, and then you can constantly scale. It's literally a game of figuring out what doesn't work before you figure out what does. But like I say, before you start pouring ad spend into it, you want to make sure you got these 3 things as a bare minimum in place. So you've got your UX and your website is dialed in, your messaging is very clear and it's what people are expecting. And then finally, the offer for somebody to want to give you their email address is there, it's clear, and it's a good offer. Those 3 things need to be in place before you turn on the ad spend. If you turn on the ad spend before these 3 things, you're just going to be pouring money away, pouring it down the drain. So instead, get these 3 things in place, then turn your ads on, or start to scale them, and then make sure you're testing whilst you turn those ads on, so that you're constantly making use of that ad spend. You're constantly making use of that data that you're getting. I think this is one of the things that most retention marketers, or just people in general, don't really want to admit. But when it comes to actually scaling your list or growing a list, it comes down a lot more to acquisition than it does to actual retention. It's not a very nice thing to admit when you're a retention marketer, because you've got very little control over it. All you can really do is do the best with what traffic you've got coming to that site. And this is how you do it. So now I'm going to share a few tactics that I know don't work, or don't work so effectively, or there's some things for you to know so that you don't try these things yourself. Well, I always say to test everything, but like I say, there's some thumb rules in this kind of like line of work when you've done it across so many different niches that I can tell you do or don't work. So I'm going to share a few of those now to help you avoid making these mistakes. All right, the first one, sweepstakes or giveaways. Should you do these things? Now, if you're not familiar with what those are, they're basically where you work with other brands and you essentially partner with them to do some kind of giveaway of your products, and you get people to sign up for a chance to win this bundle of products, something like that. Should you do them? I've done quite a few in my time, and they're great for getting numbers, really good for growing your email list, sure. Are they the people on your list that you actually want? No. In my experience, they're not. They run your Klaviyo bill up because you're adding lots of new subscribers into your list. But do those people actually make a purchase? Very, very few of them. Even the ones where we've given a fantastic offer, like ones where we're literally giving the product away for free and they just have to pay shipping of like $10 or something like that. It didn't work. Whilst people, love to sign up because everyone's trying to win free stuff, like why not? I'll just give a throwaway email, something like that. But they're not actually bought into your brand. They're not ever really thinking of giving you their money to buy your product. It was a very small percentage of people that we converted, even with some of the most insane offers that we've given out. So I tend to avoid these. That's the first reason, because those people don't really make purchases. The second is because this can be really detrimental to your email deliverability. So imagine you've signed up to a giveaway, you've given them your email. You're not actually that bothered about the product. You're just trying to win something for free. Maybe it's a few $100s worth of a product that you really care about. Maybe it's a free, I don't know, like free PlayStation or something. Maybe that would resonate with you. But then by the end of it, you find out you didn't win. Somebody else has just won it, and that announcement gets made. It's not you. What's the first thing that you're going to do if you don't care about the brand? you're going to unsubscribe. And that's exactly what happens en masse when you send that announcement email. In fact, we saw unsubscribe rates of like 5 or 6% when we sent that email to announce the winner for these things that I've done. So that's really bad for your deliverability. Initially, you get that that spike in unsubscribes, which is not the worst thing in the world. It's only like a short-term effect. The bigger long-term effect is that you still have a list full of thousands of people who don't really care about your brand. And then you might grow your email list to like 50K, but the majority of the people in that list don't actually care about your product. So they don't really open, they don't really click, they certainly don't place orders. What's the point having them there? So they're dragging down your deliverability score and they're inflating your Klaviyo bill because you've got a list of 50,000 people who don't really care about your brand, but Klaviyo is going to bill you either way. So that's my experience working with those. I would avoid them. Again, I always say test things and you can try that if you really want to, but that is my experience working with these things. Second thing is referrals. Do these things work? Yes, is the short answer. They can work. However, they're quite difficult to actually execute well and actually get a result that you want. So they only really perform if the underlying offer on the referral is really, really good. And if the people who are doing the referrals are very well bought into your brand. So if you're doing this to your VIPs, this could work very well. But again, in general, is it something that's going to massively grow your list and blow it up with thousands of subscribers? Not really, no. Again, depends on the referral scheme, but brands these days are doing it all the time. I use HelloFresh, and every single week they send me a referral thing where I can get like 60 quid if I refer somebody. I don't think I've used it once. So like, I'm not so sold on referral schemes. Again, it's worth trying, and maybe just towards the people who are most valuable on your list, the people who spend the most money with you and who care about your brand the most. But en masse, again, I haven't seen that big of a move in email list growth from using these kind of things. All right, number 3, SEO, paid and organic. This is the king of growing your email list. This is how you're going to do it. Not these two, but these 3 things here. So the reason for this is very, very simple. The people who are coming from these places, SEO, paid or organic, those are the ones who are actually interested in your brand. So if you simply get good at doing these 3 things and ignore these things, these are the ones that are going to compound. Don't focus on how you can get the biggest volume of people coming from sweepstakes and giveaways, because again, the quality of those people who are coming to your list is just simply not as good. Same goes for referrals. It's pushing a boulder up a mountain in order to get those people to do it. It's relying on somebody else to grow your business, whereas this is fully in your hands. This is all about your own skill level and your own ability to get better at paid or get better at organic. So this is what I would focus on. Now, there's a psychological piece that kind of ties well into this based on some of my own experience. So I've worked with various different companies before. Like I say, I've worked with more than 75 companies, and a few of those have been in the gifting niche. What I've noticed recently from gifting is that we had a company that we worked with who changed their main source of getting sales from Meta over to TikTok. So they did that because they wanted to scale from the top line and whatever. They did it. They succeeded. They were getting more customers from acquisition, and the business was growing. The business was like doubling, tripling in terms of the total revenue. However, when you looked at the emails, you looked at the retention, you looked at the LTV, it was terrible. It was in the toilet. Why is that? Well, my assumption is that the people who are coming from Meta tend to be more bought into your brand and more considerate buyers, where they actually want to stay for the long term and buy into a brand rather than just buy into a trendy product of the day or product of the week, whatever it may be, which is kind of what TikTok is for. I work with a few TikTok brands now, and I've seen this exact pattern playing out where everything's scaling really well. They get tons of sales on the front end, but the retention, which you don't see until months later, when you try and get repeat purchases, you try and look at the actual LTV of those customers, it's just not there. So there's different ways to scale your business these days. Of course, in e-commerce, you can, let's say if you're a supplement company and you're getting repeat orders, you can afford to spend more to acquire that customer because you know your retention is going to make up for it. Whereas the other way around with TikTok, where it's like, well, we don't need to spend that much to acquire a customer and it's good, but then the retention's crap. So then it's like, how do you actually approach these things? I'm not here to talk about that. I'm just here to give you that insight to say that there's a difference in where you get the emails from. And if you get your emails from these 2 sources, it's not going to be as potent if you get these dialed in. Another piece of data for you as well. Whenever I've audited brands and I've seen the difference in LTV on the back end for people who've come in from a discount versus people who've bought full price, almost always the people who have bought at full price have been the ones to spend more across their lifetime than the people who've come at a discount. So a very easy example for that is Black Friday. Whenever I've looked at LTV metrics of around November or December each year when it comes to LTV, and I look at how are those customers spending 6 months later, they're being lapped, they're being absolutely destroyed by the people who've come in a few months earlier in like July or August who have paid full price. Now, again, How do you approach that? Because you can get more sales in Black Friday, but a lower profit margin than you can in maybe July or August. But then those July or August customers are worth more. I'm not saying to not do either of these things. I'm not saying to not use TikTok or to only use Meta. I'm not saying to only sell at full price. I'm just saying that from a retention perspective, this is what you don't hear about. Nobody talks about this. Nobody considers the impact of scaling your business in various different ways. People are just focused on getting that sale. But when you start to think about what's the actual long-term implication of it, then you can start to better allocate your chips and say, how much do we want to put into TikTok? How much into Meta? How much discount should we give away? How many discounts should we lead with? These are questions for you to ask, and it plays back into this stuff here. Again, maybe I'm butchering my point, but if you get good at these three, then you don't need to rely on these two. So this is a higher quality way to grow your list than these two, because you're going to get a much higher conversion from doing this. But if there's one psychological difference, let's say with the discount buyers and the full-time buyers, is that the full-time buyers actually are more bought into your brand because they believe your product can solve an issue, whereas the discount buyers, the main thing that has got them to buy is the discount, is the great offer. And that's this whole Black Friday versus July, August sales in action there. So the goal is not signups, it's the right signups. Now, this is the part that actually matters for you long term, because everything that I've just described here, this is all acquisition. So getting people into your list. The way that you actually grow a list consistently and sustainably without constantly having to do this, where you're filling up a bucket full of people and constantly turning this ads tap on or content tap on or whatever, the most sustainable way to grow your list is to not have any churn going through it. Now, any churn is unrealistic. There are going to be people who leave your list every single month. They say in the industry, they throw it around where they say that 0.5% is a healthy unsubscribe rate. If you've got 100K people, that's still 500 people every single month leaving your list. Times that by your AOV and you can start to see how expensive that kind of mindset gets. And that's if you've got a healthy one at 0.5%. If you go to 1%, then it's double. So this is what it looks like. You're trying to fill up this bucket, but the best way that you can fill this bucket up and keep it to a good level is by reducing churn. How do you reduce churn? The way you do that is in the content that you send them. So if your content doesn't match what people are expecting, if you're being overly salesy, if you're not really building any kind of affinity or nurturing people, if you're not segmenting your email list, if you're blasting it out to everybody, or you're just blasting it out to engaged subscribers constantly, you're not really building any reason for those people to stay on your list. It's still too broad and too generic. And so people are going to leave. And then you get stuck in this death loop where you're trying to fill this bucket up, but because your content isn't great, you've got these holes at the bottom. And so then the water starts leaking out. The people, the subscribers, you're trying to acquire them with one hand and then you're losing them with the other. And so you want to make sure the content that you're sending is actually what people are expecting, so you can fill these holes and stop the leaky bucket syndrome. So if you're trying to grow your list, then first of all, fix the front door, fix the UX and the website, make sure it's got the right messaging and then a good offer to actually get people in. But the way you're going to keep people in there, the way you're going to stop churn, the way you're going to stop losing subscribers unnecessarily is with the content that you send, is with the emails that you're creating, with the segmentation that you're doing on your list, with the reason for emailing, with what you're giving to that customer beyond just asking them to buy constantly. If you keep doing that, if you keep trying to rinse them for sales, they're going to leave, and then your ads, you're going to have to spend more on those ads to fill this bucket, but then the holes are going to get bigger because your back-end content isn't very good. So make sure that whilst you're, yes, trying to grow your list, the easiest way to grow it is to stop it from actually churning, to stop people from leaving in the first place. Now, if you're wondering, Jack, I'm already trying to grow my email list. That's another issue I've got. How do I segment it? What content do I send those people? Worry not, fear not. I have the answer for you there. You can sign up to my email list and you'll get my free segmentation guide. These are the segments that we use at Surefire Media for our clients to actually send people content that they're expecting based on their previous behavior. So based on who they are to us, based on where they are in the customer journey, so that we meet them rather than expecting that they just keep buying from us for every email that we send. Not only that, but it also covers the buyer psychology behind each of these different types of buyer persona so that you actually know how to build your strategy around them. The link's below, check it out, and I'll see you in the next video.